Popular Microsoft services and apps are being targeted by attackers to get remote access to accounts. So, how do you protect these points of entry before that happens? Hey s'mores, I'm Shannon Morse. Welcome to Morse Code. I do tech reviews and tutorials, so if you are looking for in-depth tech and gadget content with a little dose of security and privacy, you have come to the right place. I talk to y'all every day here on YouTube, on Discord, and on Twitter, and I have noticed that everyone's day-to-day work life has changed, and it's not gonna go back to normal anytime soon. Remote work is here to stay, at least for the rest of this year, probably into 2021 as well. So continuing to update the ways we secure our online lifestyles, our networks, and our workplaces has to evolve as well, so we don't end up being low-hanging fruit for attackers. When we look at the major breaches and attacks this year, we are noticing that attackers are smart and they are evolving to go after remote workers and companies because they know people have not been preparing for these changes. So this week, in partnership with PKWY, I will be discussing one of the ways attackers are hitting companies through remote environments and specifically by targeting Microsoft products, especially Office 365, SharePoint, and all of those apps underneath the umbrella of Microsoft Web Services. PKWY gets rid of human-readable authentication and can eliminate the need for usernames and passwords by making use of electronic IDs to allow users access to apps they need most to get the job done. And that's exactly what I'm talking about here with Microsoft's services. So far in this series on identity and access management, I have covered many different options that you have for setting up single sign-on, but doing it in a more secure way, whether that's with social media logins, QR codes, or tokenized access. I have used the example of Zoom Teams and SSO, but you can take much of what we have learned and use it for other web applications as well, like Microsoft Web Apps. So take, for example, Outlook Web Access. OWA allows you to access your calendar, your contacts, tasks, folders, and more through an online connection. It's a fully featured web-based email client, first and foremost. Now, since this data is stored online, it also needs to be secured properly. Ironically, I can share a perfect example of what happens if you don't secure these accounts correctly. SANS Institute, they sell certifications, they do cybersecurity training, and they are a security company, but they got hit with an email phish and O365 add-on that let an attacker get access to over 28,000 records of personally identifying information. See, one user's account was breached, and this allowed attackers to set up forwarding rules to steal data. When SANS discovered this breach, they removed the forwarding rule and malicious O365 add-in, and they closed the vulnerability, but that's well after all that data was stolen. They didn't say exactly how the attacker gained entry, but since it was through phishing, it's likely the attacker got access to human-readable credentials and used those to get access to that user's account. So how could they have kept this from happening? Well, there are tons of security practices that should be in place with a company and its users, like proper online security hygiene, using monitoring setups to flag unusual network activity, and keeping all servers and endpoints updated. They could also switch to non-human readable credentials because oftentimes phishing is the common way an attacker tries to access a network. Now, by taking precautionary steps well in advance, which sounds boring and tedious, but it can also save so much money and so much stress in the long run, a company or a user does not end up being that low-hanging fruit. Now, there is another example of this kind of trend from a recent report. Tons of businesses have been targeted this month through Office 365 accounts to commit payment fraud. 800 sets of credentials have been stolen through this scheme that has targeted executives and financial companies. So since this whole series is about SSO and identity and access management, I bet you can guess one of the ways that you can protect your Microsoft accounts. Well, it turns out that Microsoft now lets you sign into your accounts without the need for usernames and passwords, and that is a big deal. Now, there are two ways that you can do so. The first one is having your company implement SSO for all of their users, and that can be done with WW Pass. And that means if your company also uses apps like Zoom or Salesforce or G Suite, etc., they can just use one application to access all the things, making it super user-friendly, and then they don't have to remember passwords and usernames. In fact, and this is exciting for me as well because I use this all the time, WW Pass just updated their Passkey mobile app, so now it's just called WW Passkey. It's a lot more user-friendly, it authenticates faster, and they have made it very, very straightforward. Like there's this menu screen that gives you quick access to security settings like biometrics. So you could just set that up for your company. Now, if you don't want to do SSO, WW Pass's partnership with Glue means that Microsoft products can also be set up with credentials isolated from users, so they still can't get phished. So what do these options tell us? Well, first, we are starting to see a trend this year that companies are starting to realize. Remote work from home means more users have to log in over the internet to access important information, and that is a whole new realm of potential attack vectors. Criminals already know this, and they are taking advantage of it. So more and more companies are starting to address those threats by integrating technologies that are available to them. For example, WW Pass. So I do want to say thank you again to WW Pass because this series would not be possible without their support, and they're doing really good work. They have got really cool product options for users and for companies to solve these kind of issues. So check out everything that WW Pass has to offer. The link is down in the description. You can sign up and check out everything they have down at that link below. And make sure to comment below and let me know how you are protecting your online accounts. I want to thank my s'mores as well for subscribing and for watching. I'm Shannon Morse, and I will see you soon. Bye, y'all.